World War II ended on September 2nd, 1945. Hiroo Onoda kept fighting until 1974. For 29 years, alone in a Philippine jungle, he fought a war that the rest of the world had forgotten. This is one of the most extraordinary stories in modern history. Hiroo Onoda was born in 1922 in rural Japan. He grew up in an era when loyalty to the emperor was not just expected. It was everything. In 1944, with Japan losing the war, Onoda was recruited into the Imperial Army's intelligence branch. He was trained in guerrilla warfare, infiltration, psychological operations. In December 1944, he was sent to a small island in the Philippines called Lubang. His commanding officer, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, gave him his orders before he left. Fight until you receive orders to stop. Never surrender. Never take your own life. Hold this island at all costs. Onoda took those words as sacred. The war ended 8 months later. Japan surrendered on August 15, 1945. Onoda didn't believe it. Allied planes dropped leaflets over the jungle, printed announcements declaring the war was over. Onoda picked one up. He read it carefully. He concluded it was enemy propaganda, a trick to make Japanese soldiers lay down their weapons. He kept fighting. For the first years, Onoda was not alone. He led a small group of soldiers who had the same orders, the same training, the same refusal to accept defeat. One by one, they were killed. Corporal Yuichi Akatsu surrendered to Filipino authorities in 1950, the first crack in their resolve. Private Shoichi Shimada was shot and killed by a search party in 1954. Corporal Kinshichi Kozuka was killed in a skirmish with Philippine police in 1972. With each death, Onoda buried a comrade and kept going. He was alone now. The Philippine government knew he was out there. He was not a ghost. He raided villages for food and supplies. He ambushed patrols. He destroyed crops he believed were supporting the enemy. Farmers feared him. Reports flooded in from across Lubang, but they couldn't catch him. He knew every trail, every hiding place, every shadow on that island. He had been living in the jungle for so long. The jungle had become him. Japan did not forget him either. Search parties were sent. His family traveled to Lubang and called his name from the jungle's edge. A loudspeaker played recordings of his parents' voices. Onoda watched from the trees. He decided it was an enemy deception. His country gave up trying to find him. He kept fighting. By the 1970s, Onoda was in his 50s. He had spent his entire adult life in the jungle. He had never seen a television. He had never heard rock music. He had no idea that Japan had become one of the most powerful economies in the world. He was still living in 1944. In 1974, a young Japanese student and adventurer named Norio Suzuki decided he was going to find Hiroo Onoda. People told him it was impossible. He packed his bag and went to Lubang anyway. Against all odds, he found him. They sat together in the jungle. Suzuki explained everything: the war, the rebuilding, the new Japan. Onoda listened. He did not disbelieve Suzuki, but he said he would only stand down for one reason: if his commanding officer, Major Taniguchi, gave him the order in person. No other authority would do. The Japanese government tracked down Major Taniguchi. He was 78 years old. He had left the military decades ago. He was running a bookstore in a small Japanese town. They flew him to the Philippines. On March 9, 1974, Major Taniguchi walked into a jungle clearing on Lubang Island. Onoda was waiting. The major read from an official document. The mission was complete. The war was over. Onoda stood at attention. He removed his rifle from his shoulder, the rifle he had maintained in perfect condition for 29 years, and laid it on the ground. Then his ammunition. Then his sword. He was 52 years old. He wept. He emerged from the jungle in his original uniform, still pressed, still intact. The Philippine government, acknowledging that Onoda had simply followed orders he had no reason to doubt, issued him a full pardon for the deaths and damage caused during his campaign. Japan received him as a hero. He returned to a country he no longer recognized. Cars everywhere, skyscrapers, neon lights, television. A world that had moved 29 years without him. He said he felt no regret. He had done his duty. He had kept his word. He moved to Brazil for several years, finding modern Japan too loud, too fast, too far from the world he knew. He eventually returned. He wrote his memoirs. He gave lectures. He spoke to young people about discipline, commitment, and the importance of having something to believe in. He died on January 16, 2014. He was 91 years old. He had outlived most of the men who gave him his orders. He had outlived the war by nearly 7 decades. And until the very end, he said he had no regrets. He was a soldier. He had followed his orders. That was enough. Every story has a last frame. This was his. I'm the last frame. A new story every week. Subscribe and don't miss the next one.